My actually professional background is astronomy. I have a PhD in astrophysics, and the specific area that I looked at was the very beginnings of our universe. So, where did the first stars come from? How did chemicals start to form in our universe? And and so as time went on, I began to talk a lot more with people of various different religions. I've had a lot of interfaith experience, and I also brought in philosophy into this, philosophy and religion and ethics into science, and talking about like the biggest scale things. So like Joseph said earlier, we're moving to bigger and bigger scales, and I'm going to talk about the biggest scale, the whole universe, or maybe even the multiverse, and how I personally how I kind of see that. Um, and so what I'm going to talk a little bit about today is sort of my own personal viewpoint on this. And so you can take it or leave it however you like. But sort of where science is going right now, especially when you look at these really um, the borders of science. You look about astrophysics, you look about quantum physics, um, uh, how science is beginning to try to help us to understand where we fit in, where consciousness fits in, where our bodies fit in. And this is interesting because I think this is a question that religions have been trying to answer for millennia. Of course, right? They might try to answer these questions a little bit differently. So religions talk about the why we're here, and where science is trying to do the how. Um, and that's one way to see it. But since these questions are so similar, a lot of people imagine that this is where the conflict is coming in, because we're trying to answer the same questions, and sometimes, on first glance, these the answers seem like they don't mesh. So other people might see, um, perhaps we have a gap in our scientific understanding. And so they take this gap and they try to stuff their religion in to see if they can make it fit, make it fill that gap. And I think that both of these viewpoints are kind of missing the richer picture of what we might be seeing here. Because my personal belief is, I think that God or creator or whatever you call it is too big to fit into just one religion or just one way of knowing him, whether it be science or religion. And so I think that as humans we are limited, as Rabbi Jordan was saying. We are part of this universe. We can't know everything there is to know. And even when you look at science, we begin to know that this is actually very, very true, because as observers in physical systems, there are things we just can't know. That's just the laws of physics. There are things we just can't know. So my personal opinion is, if our goal is the truth, then it doesn't hurt to seek God however and wherever we might find him, whether this be through any type of religion, whether this be through science, whether this be through philosophy, or however you go about this. So some points I want to say from the astrophysical perspective. So one thing you learn when you're in astronomy, you learn how vast the universe is. The universe is really amazingly big, and there's no real way that we as humans can wrap our heads around how big the universe is. Um, and then if you look at the possibility of, even there might be more universes than just one. We might actually have a multiverse. And when you think about how big this could potentially be, the idea of a creator being even bigger, wanting to create something so gigantic and so detailed and so amazingly complex, begins to give you an idea of maybe what the creator's intentions were, or maybe our role in all of this. Um, another thing you can consider is, when the current scientific consensus is that the universe started in a big bang. And this is an interesting theory, that the all of space and time came from a single point about 13.6 billion years ago. Now, a lot of people don't actually know that the Big Bang theory was developed by a Catholic priest. His name was Georges Lemaitre. And there's a lot of different ideas about, what this means, like what it means for all of time to start in one position, all of space to start in one position. There's even ideas that perhaps before there was another universe that our universe came from. Sort of this idea of like a cyclic time, like a universe expanded, came together in a big crunch, and then expanded again into a new Big Bang, forming a new universe. And this sounds really weird, especially for people in the Western world, but actually in Eastern traditions like Hinduism, Jainism, Buddhism, they have this idea of cyclic time. And if you actually study how they view time, they view it as um, these huge units of time that are longer than the age of the universe. And so, all of these things taken together kind of gives you an idea of how grand our reality is, way beyond what we can even imagine. Um, and then there's lots of other things that we can look at in physics to kind of give us an idea of where we fit in. For example, as humans, how we look at the nature of time. Um, my now is different than your now. Just that is something we learn from relativity. Are the past and the future real? Are they something that is set in stone, or are they changing? Um, and then also, when you look at quantum physics, you get a lot of ideas of where observers, or where even consciousness comes in, how important it is in the grand scheme of things. So quantum physics tells us that observers are actually needed to understand what is happening in a physical system. So what does that mean for us? Like, does that there's to a point, it's like there's a very interesting, actually, physical experiments saying maybe consciousness is, unique in a way. And I could talk more about that if anyone's interested. But basically, I just want to talk about the greater connection we have with the universe, where we fit in, and some sort of questions to ponder about, like, how our consciousness fits in, how our consciousness is it special in the grand scheme of things, and how we can approach the truth, and also what God or the creator might be trying to tell us by showing us that even as much as we try, we there's no way for us to know everything. So, thank you.